Spoiler warning, if you haven't finished the main quest in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, then don't watch this video, as we spoil elements from the entirety of this game, from chapter 2 to the final boss. Why is that? As most hints and teases that tie to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 first appear in and after chapter 5, so please click away if you haven't finished the main quest of the game. If you have finished the main quest, then congratulations, as you're now qualified to watch the 10 Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 teasers that are found in Age of Calamity. I hope you thus can press that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Press the notification bell, and again for all notifications to not miss any of our upcoming Age of Calamity, Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2 videos. To everyone who hasn't finished the main quest, you have been warned. So let's begin with the least spoilery of the 10. Number 1. Elemental enemies. Age of Calamity found a way to introduce new foes, well, variations of existing foes that feel unique and new. Beginning from chapter 2, where you recruit the champions, we begin to face elemental enemies. That is to say, regular enemies from Breath of the Wild infused with fire, ice and electricity. Well, at least with a barrier surrounding them, and this would just be a cool inclusion for elemental combat puzzles with the elemental rods if it wasn't for the Gerudo text swirling around them. Yes, Gerudo text, just like the one deriving from the mysterious green hand, possibly of Zonai origin in the reveal trailer of Breath of the Wild sequel. Is this a sign of things to come? Possibly, as the early attacks in the new world, which was created due to the time-traveling Terrako, are actually summoned by the malice or possessed Terrako of the new world, which also traveled from the future world of ruins. In other words, elements from the world of ruin are impacting elements in the new world. The little guardian and Ganondorf's malice. But up to now, we had not seen malice type enemies. That changes drastically in Age of Calamity, with its introduction of malice guardians, malice Lionels, and so on. In other words, we might prepare for in Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 for something in line of the World of Malice rumor that was talking about malice enemies and a world covered in malice. Number 2. The successors of the fallen champions 100 years after the calamity, or more specifically the successors of the champions in the world of ruin who fought in Terrako's world after Link freed the divine beasts in Breath of the Wild. To keep this entry simple, let's take it by the order that it follows. The champions are killed by the blights in the world of ruin. Link ends up in the Shrine of Resurrection, and for the next century, Zelda fights to hold Calamity Ganon, and Link, after 100 years, approaches the successors of the champions, Mipha's brother, the adult Prince Sidon, Yunobo, Teba, and Gerudo Chief Riju. Together with the help of these 4 individuals, Link enters each of the divine beasts, defeats the 4 blights, and frees the spirit of the 4 deceased champions. The companions to the divine beasts are eternally grateful to Link, who goes on with the spirit of the champions and Zelda to defeat Calamity Ganon. Meanwhile, or right after the victory in the world of ruin, 100 years after the defeat, Terrako summons the 4 successors of the champions to his newly created world, to buy time for the champions of this world so that this new Link can fight his way and destroy the 4 blights and bring the divine beasts back in action. Thanks to the long lifespan, Sidon, the Zora Prince of the world of ruin, is the key to solving this puzzle. He mentions that,
I know this is hard to swallow, but I've journeyed here from the future.
None of this makes any sense. But oh well, we have bigger rocks to roast.
When it happened, I could faintly hear a voice calling to me. As I searched for who it was, I suddenly saw my dear sister under attack. My only thought was that I had to help her. Next thing I knew, I was inside Varuta.
that is all we need to know. All the successors came to aid the champions in what turned out to be a different world and past than their own. With their difference and attack complete and victory against Calamity Ganon achieved, the successors returned to their own world and future, aka after Zelda is freed and together with Link got rid of Calamity Ganon and Dark Beast Ganon in Breath of the Wild. In other words, the stage should be more than set for the new champions in the upcoming battle against Ganondorf. Well, it depends if they will remember their time travels and fight with the champions in Terrako's world when they meet Link of the World of Ruin again and the Princess Zelda of the World of Ruin for the first time. This goes in particular for the time-traveling Sidon, who based on the true ending of Breath of the Wild might just be visited by Link and Zelda of the World of Ruin after their victory and visit to Old Impa. If Sidon remembers his battles against Waterblight Ganon and how he saved his sister in the other world and then took part in confronting Asta and Calamity Ganon, then he might be more than willing to help Link and Zelda of the World of Ruin on their continued path in Breath of the Wild 2, while he and the other successors of the champions, who now, thanks to their travel to the world of Age of Calamity, have experienced Divine Beast piloting. In other words, aid Link and Zelda of the world of Ruin in the upcoming quest with the Divine Beasts, or without them. Number 3. Two worlds that might work together. You'll probably realize that we are playing around with the creation of a new world reality, and the consequences of that move has already been seen in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. So since the successors of the champions 100 years later in the world of Ruin could be brought to Terraco's new world to aid the champions of that world, could the champions of the new world travel in time to return the favor? More important, could even the Link and Zelda of the new world come to aid the Link and Zelda of the world of Ruin in Breath of the Wild 2? That doesn't seem likely, but at the same time, bringing characters from one world to aid the other opens a whole different can of worms, which could tease another thing in Breath of the Wild 2, namely number 4, Gate of Time and time travel among different worlds and timeline branches. We have reached it, my theory in collaboration with Rinkuto about time travel across the entire Zelda timeline, since with the ability to time travel, what is in the way to bring all the 12 links together? Well, Terraco, since it left the world of Ruin and remained in the new world it created, and hopefully the small guardian also stays there, but we will not know for sure until Breath of the Wild 2, which suddenly has far more possibilities to select from. Personally, we hope that the time-traveling thread in Breath of the Wild's parallel worlds was closed with Terraco leaving the world of Ruin and creating an entirely new timeline branch, where it stayed and which might or might not get new Zelda games in the future. It all depends on the Zelda team, Breath of the Wild 2's will to time travel or not time travel, and the future of the Zelda series from 2025 and onwards. Number 5. Playable Zelda next to Link. The new Princess Zelda of Age of Calamity's world was treated with respect in the story cutscenes. She was not partaking in any battles in the cutscenes until her awakening at Fort Hateno. She does what she did in Breath of the Wild, and is a courageous commander and almost queen towards the end of the game. And that is the Zelda we have in the world of Ruin, after the ending of Breath of the Wild. A leader with her power awoken. 100 years of determination and patience, and with an aim to restore Hyrule and take part in that restoration. It is just that one person is in the way, which might force Zelda to fight. Since in Age of Calamity's gameplay portions, Zelda is a complete badass, with the runes, and towards the end of the game the blood of the goddess, who truly shows her divine power with her hand and the bow of light. If Zelda is playable in Breath of the Wild 2, then Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, both in its last mission and definitely gameplay, was another tease after the E3 2019 reveal trailer of the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Number 6. The upcoming conflict of Malice, Power, Ganondorf versus Life, Courage, and Link. Malice is weak to Courage, and naturally the Master Sword as we saw in Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity serves Dark Beast Ganon and Calamity Ganon to Princess Zelda. But that is obvious, since there is a certain different detail found in Age of Calamity, namely the Spring of Courage, dedicated to the goddess of courage, Furore. This location was completely optional, never shown in the memories of Breath of the Wild, and didn't play any significant role unless you went for all 120 Sheikah shrines. In Age of Calamity, an entire stage where you protect Zelda from monsters is set here, an odd choice, but which make perfect sense with the storyline, as Zelda prayed at the Spring of Courage in both worlds. It is just that we didn't see it in Breath of the Wild. Then why was this spring and its zonai surroundings highlighted to this degree in Age of Calamity? Obviously, since it wasn't featured in memories, but is likely to play a far bigger role along with the other coastal provinces and the seas of Hyrule, which were somewhat downplayed with the exception of Zora's domain in Lanayru. Possibly a sign of things to come, as the future battleground of Hyrule is likely not found in the west, but rather in its east. More specifically, southeast in the Faron province, where the power of opposing Malice might derive from. But enough of champions, heroes, royalty, and even goddesses. Let's end the last 3 entries on the other side of the conflict, and we begin with number 7. Voiced villains. In Breath of the Wild, none of the characters supporting, or even Calamity Ganon itself, were voiced. In Age of Calamity, Koga, Suga, and Asta have brilliant voice acting, specifically in English.
I can't split, you're my best lackey! Ha!
In that case, I will protect you, even if it costs me my life.
A blood sacrifice for the Calamity. Fate gives you this role, and you will play it!
all three shine in the few scenes that we get of the villains, which make up some of the absolutely best moments in the entire game. In fact, they are the reason why Age of Calamity feels like a movie, and why we were able to put it together into a 2-hour and 30-hour long movie. All of the moments involving first Koga, then Suga, and finally Asta with Harbinger Ganon are fantastic and most of all, psychological. They have completely sold me and everyone else on the voiced Ganondorf in Breath of the Wild 2, and I think one of the many reasons for why Age of Calamity was made was just this: show how incredible voiced villains can be, especially when one of them eventually turns to the light side. Wonder if something similar will happen in the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. But you know who definitely will not join the Hylians? Number 8. Asta. Finally, a menacing and cunning villain in the Breath of the Wild saga, who isn't a complete joke. Asta, the Prophet of Doom, and his Malice Hollows stole the show in the Yiga, Master Sword, Princess Zelda, and final confrontation scene. His evil was comical, but it at least served one purpose: showing the true nature and evil of the imprisoned Ganondorf. Remember, malice stems from Ganondorf, and Demise's hatred and the consumption of Asta was a grim reminder of what the source of the Calamity is capable of. And we will soon get back to it, but before his death, we learned a few things about Asta: that he had been selected by the possessed by Ganondorf Terrako of the New World to do his bidding, and other than that, it is not really explained who he is and where he came from, except for some small village in Hyrule. In the case of Breath of the Wild 2 Teases, I'll just say this: he ends up dead in Age of Calamity's world, but might have survived Breath of the Wild's memories, and could still be alive after Breath of the Wild. Keep that in mind. For now, his rather painful death also foreshadows something else for the sequel. Number 9. The All-Consuming Calamity. Malice is dangerous. It harms, it drains, and it is the manifestation of Ganondorf's will and hatred. It swallows souls to keep itself strong. Much like cancer, it consumes and destroys. It is terrifying, and its true nature, and thus the Calamity, was exposed to a degree unheard of in Breath of the Wild. All that was needed was 2 cutscenes, both requiring blood and soul sacrifices for the Calamity to thrive. The first scene of the extraction of soul or life energy from Yiga foot soldiers to revive the defeated Blights shows that Ganondorf can produce malice, but that the malice needs blood and souls to get stronger. While the second scene of Harbinger Ganon consuming Asta brings us to a final point, Tease, and the ultimate goal of Ganondorf's mind game. Number 10. The Calamity Ganon we face in Hyrule Castle's Sanctum. Calamity Ganon's transformation from a disgusting possessed Terrako, aka Harbinger Ganon, into what resembles a giant human after consuming Asta is loud and clear. It really shows that the mastermind behind this all is the imprisoned Ganondorf, who is trying to assume his ideal form, a form he's far from having while sealed underground. The Calamity Ganon we face, and which Terrako with its sacrifice reveals a path to defeat, is the form Ganondorf desires, which he will likely aim for in the sequel. Obviously, in his current state, he's too weak despite his anger, hatred, and malice to directly confront the hero of Hyrule with the fully powered Master Sword and the princess with her power fully awakened. As such, I want to end this video with a question: is the final form of Calamity Ganon in Age of Calamity a foreshadowing that Ganondorf could be rehydrated at some point in the sequel? Sound off in the comment section down below. Obviously, we'll be making more Inside Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 videos which tie to the new information revealed in Age of Calamity, so be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're hungry for more, and press that notification bell, and again for all notifications, do not miss any of our upcoming videos. A big thanks as always goes to all our great patrons on patreon.com/commonrealm, and in particular royal producer Charles Shash. You are the best. And to you, thanks for watching, and please enjoy one or both of these 2 awesome videos.